Hey y'all, I'm Attica Scott, former Kentucky State Representative.
They're asking me about everything, local, state, federal, all the time. How do I do this? How do I do that? Why can't I get a speed hump? What's going on with the consent decree? Hey y'all, welcome to Ask Attica. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning.
Healthy Beginnings Connect Us offers resources, classes, and more. Visit us at 1141 South 2nd Street or www.blackbirthjustice.org.
Hey y'all, welcome to this episode of Ask Attica. It's a very special episode. I'm having a mother-daughter conversation with my daughter, Ashanti Scott. Welcome, Ashanti.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. So we've been doing this podcast since May, so about 7 months. We've had some amazing guests, and we're winding down this year. And so we're going to talk about local, state, federal, political issues. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments, and we'll try to get to them. So, and we'll take a couple, 2, 3 breaks. So we're going to get right into it. So Ashanti, tell folks a little bit about yourself, what drives you, what you want to share, maybe what kind of work you do, anything you want to share about yourself.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name's Ashanti. I do the social and digital media for Forward Justice. I'm a graduate of the University of Louisville. Go Cards. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself and my background.
All right, sounds good. So let's get into it. Let's start maybe look at local, state, and national politics.
Okay.
All right, so locally, there's a lot happening. You are a graduate of JCPS, right? Okay, so what have you been observing is happening at JCPS right now? I know there's a lot going on, so instead of feeding you anything, what are you observing?
There is a lot going on with JCPS right now. I'm a proud JCPS grad of Butler High School, and I'm seeing the budget shortfalls that are happening that are potentially going to lead to some school closures. My dad also works in JCPS, so it's definitely hits home still, even though I'm a graduate. And I just hope that they're able to get through everything while still keeping a lot of what people need. I was reading an article in, I believe, the Courier, or I can't remember what the newspaper was, but I was reading an article and it was about how Liberty, was it Liberty Green? They were
Liberty
talking
High
about
School.
Liberty High School. They were talking about closing and just hearing the stories of community members and how they're impacted by that and how much they need that as a resource. It just goes to show how much our leaders really have to work to make this work out for everyone.
Yeah, my brother went to Liberty, so I know how important that is to our community. So a lot going on with JCPS, a $188 million budget shortfall. So yes, you're absolutely right. They're talking about some school closures, but you've also been noticing that parents are rising up and speaking out against closing schools. What do you think about that kind of activism?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have parents involved in the process. And I think, as taxpayers, you definitely want to know what's going on with schools. And especially when it comes to closures, you're moving your child around, they're getting less structure, less consistency. And so that really impacts them in those developmental years of your youth. So definitely glad to see parents involved as they should be.
Yes, absolutely. So that's JCPS. There are a lot of other things happening locally. So you voted quite a few times in local and state elections here in Louisville and Kentucky. What do you think about Louisville's mayoral and metro council races going nonpartisan?
Ooh, that's so juicy. I think that it's really interesting. I mean, my biggest concern with the nonpartisan elections is that someone is going to be able to kind of get in without having clarity about what their stance is. And I feel like when it's partisan, you choose the party and there's a little bit more clarity, and so there's a little bit more like expectation with that because you're probably going to be aligned with your state and national party values versus it being nonpartisan. I just think there's going to be some sneaky people that just try to work their way in. But I think it'll be very interesting to see. The local elections are definitely going to be something to watch.
Yes.
Um, it's going to be mayor and metro council, both
Yes.
nonpartisan? Okay. Yeah, that's gonna be something to watch.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
interested to see. I don't think there's anyone running for mayor other than the current incumbent mayor, so it might not be a really something to watch there, but maybe the next election cycle.
Y'all make this an election to watch. The filing deadline is Friday, January 9th. So if you're thinking about running for mayor, you have until Friday, January 9th to file. Do not let the current mayor just walk into that seat without any kind of challenge. So,
Yeah, because the current mayor definitely deserves some challenges.
exactly. Why do you say that?
Um, well, not to put him on the spot, but I definitely think the current mayor could be stronger when it comes to what's going on with our immigrant communities and their fears around ICE and what's happening, what we're seeing in other places like DC and Chicago. And I think he could be more of a leader about the stance on that. But I think there's been, you know, I never ran with credit, so I am not the biggest fan. So, but I'll leave my criticisms out of it.
Well, I won't, because I'm also disappointed in how this current administration has been treating the House's population.
Oh yeah, the encampment clear outs. That's also been problematic because shout out to local Kentucky and Shamika Parish Bright and what they do with the houseless community. But yeah, I forgot about that. But that's definitely one he deserves some scrutiny on as well.
Exactly. And then there's Metro Council, which
There is.
will also have its first nonpartisan election.
It will.
So, any additional thoughts with that?
Not really. I mean, the Louisville Metro Council, it's almost, it's even, right?
Almost.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's some, people who claim to be part of a certain party that don't tend to act like they're part of that party, but yes.
Yeah, so that'll be really interesting. I don't have any specific races that I'm like paying attention to closely, but I think that that will be a shakeup for sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
And speaking of Metro Council, so last night we learned that the mask ban, y'all may recall that Councilman J.P. Leninger, who is the DSA council member for Louisville Metro Council, had an ordinance that would say that ICE agents, National Guard, any law enforcement cannot be patrolling our streets looking to kidnap people who are immigrants or refugees and wearing a mask so they're not identifiable. That ordinance unfortunately didn't pass. It was an amendment to an already existing mask ordinance. What are your thoughts about that ordinance not passing?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just in the moment, there is a lot of what we're seeing just online and in person with people. It really looks like kidnappings. And when you have someone who doesn't have any clear markings, they have their face covered, I feel like for the person that's in that experience, it's scary and you don't know who these people are and you don't know what their intentions are. Um, because, yeah, and I think also too for the community, we have a right to record. We have a right to know what your badge number is. We have a right to know what you look like. Because if you're doing something shady or fugazi, like we have a right to put that out, make it public, and put you out on blast for it. So I think that people do worse when they feel like they have a mask and they feel like they can hide their identity. They're not going to act right. But that's why we saw with body cam footage, there was definitely a lot of changes in police forces that got body cams. So I feel like with that mask, it just gives you this kind of secrecy. And so I think it empowers you and emboldens you to just act any type of way.
Right.
So I think it's unfortunate that that legislation didn't pass. I'm not surprised because law enforcement still has such a chokehold on politicians, but it is what it is.
Right, here we are, y'all. So remain vigilant because we also know that ICE has announced that they're looking to hire some attorneys. So they're like focusing on places like Louisville, literally, Raleigh, Nashville, places in Florida, other southern cities. So we need to pay attention to that as well because they're on a recruiting rampage.
They are. I mean, the hiring bonuses, they're offering some money. They're spending big.
Exactly. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some state level issues and some national issues. So we'll be right back, y'all, with this special episode of Ask Attica.
Healthy Business Connect Us empowers families to thrive through holistic well-being, early child development, and accessible health care. We are committed to fostering connections, knowledge sharing, and support networks that enhance the physical, mental, and emotional health of children, parents, and caregivers.
By building bridges between healthcare providers, social services organizations, educators, and families.
We aspire to create a world where every child experiences a healthy and nurturing start.
Setting the foundation for a brighter future.
Hey, I know you're watching the live stream right now, but I want to take a moment to tell you to check out this new book right here over my shoulder. Believe me, it'll be worth it.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Ask Attica. And of course, I have a very special guest, my daughter, Ashanti Scott, and we're talking all things government politics at the local, state, and national level. So let's get back into it, Ashanti. All right, so now we're going to talk national. We talk or local or state and national because we just talked about local a little bit, and we may go back and forth.
Okay.
So at the state level, you have many opportunities to be in the state capitol in Frankfurt during legislative sessions. So you've seen it in operation. What do you think about the way in which our state legislature operates and whether or not it's taking care of the people in Kentucky, if it's focusing on the right issues, or is it like attacking us with bills that make no sense?
Yeah. I feel like the state legislature, there's definitely some shortfalls. I think it can be very reactive instead of proactive. So I definitely feel like there could be some growth there. I just feel like too, the state legislature, and that happens in national politics as well, but it like takes these boogeymen that don't really have anything to do with what's going on in people's lives, doesn't address anything like the affordability crisis. It just kind of like takes like didn't the state legislature have like a bathroom bill?
Yes.
Like seriously, we have so many other things to prioritize, and it just seems like it just fuels that hate and that rhetoric that's just so divisive. So no, I don't be feeling it overall.
I know you don't, because listen, y'all, when she would be up there, she was not feeling those folks
At all.
I would tell people if she liked you at all as an elected official, you were very fortunate because she couldn't stand those people.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a huge U.S. Senate race coming up in 2026 in Kentucky.
There is.
All right, you follow politics closely, government, etc. Can you talk some about your thoughts on the U.S. Senate race?
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
The U.S. Senate race. Oh my gosh, that race is gonna be so. It's just like the race to watch in Kentucky because it's such a. I mean, it's such an interesting race. It's such, and the Democratic ticket is getting stacked. I'm a registered Democrat, so it's like, okay, we came out swinging. So it's exciting to see. I'm glad to see how diverse the Democratic lineup is in the slate. We have a black man running, we have a black woman running, and so I'm really looking forward to one of them being the nominees. And I think that's really important. And then I think it's going to be really interesting to see because the other side, the Republican side, also has the opportunity. Unfortunately, hopefully he doesn't get it.
Right.
But actually, hopefully a Republican doesn't get it, period.
Right.
But it's Kentucky, so realistically, and it's Mitch McConnell's seat. He's not going to play about his successor, so there will be a lot of money put into that.
Will he be aware? I'm just wondering.
Oof. Oh, okay. Well, that's true. That's true. But yeah, that's gonna be very, very. It's gonna be something to watch,
Yes.
and I think that it's just an important race to pay attention to. But I feel like Kentucky politics, it can be so just defeating when it comes to seeing progress, because I think statewide it's going to be very hard for a Democrat to win. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's the Ask Attica show, so you turned it on me to Ask Attica. I have quite a few thoughts as well, and I agree wholeheartedly with you, Ashanti, that it's going to be very difficult for a Democrat to win, but it doesn't have to be, right? Because you have a Democratic governor, so that's a statewide election. So if Kentucky can get organized and support a strong candidate, we have the ability to win. Kentucky needs to get out of this mindset of, you know, one person is the savior of the political party because that's not the case. So you got to support people across the board. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like that. I mean, I just think it feels like it's really hard for anyone to win statewide in Kentucky if their name isn't Bashir.
Yes.
I feel like when I was coming up, there was a little bit more Democratic representation statewide because we had like Allison Grimes, we had was Greg Stumble?
He was the Speaker of the House.
Okay, I
Yes.
thought so. Okay, and so we did have like different representation, but now it just feels like it's hard for anyone else to win. And so I do think that people kind of like, well, not people, but the party hyper focuses on like the one person they feel like is a winner. But I also feel like the messaging falls short pretty consistently when it comes to the other candidates because it's like, I mean, they have nothing to campaign on. They don't really respond well to like tragedies. They're not very relatable. It's like, you know, it gets to a point when we want to know more than you're a Marine and a mom. It's just like we have to have something of substance.
Yes.
So I just feel like they really have to find substantive candidates. And I think that's what was so inspiring for me as a Kentuckian, seeing like Mondani in New York. It's like he's talking about affordability. He's reaching out to all types of communities, people who have never been thought of, like people who work overnight at hospitals. He's going and canvassing there at 12 o'clock. He's in the club. It's like we need that type of representative who just connects cultures, connects communities, and talks about more than just war, especially with what's going on with the genocide in Palestine. I don't want to hear about that you bombed people who were probably, well, I don't want to get into that, but I feel strongly about that. We want more than that.
That's right. Very fair points, and hopefully the party is listening. But y'all don't tend to do a good job of listening, so we'll see. But that's okay. So that's state. So we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna dig into national, and then we'll close out the conversation. In fact, it is Ask Attica. So at the very end, I'll ask you, do you have any questions of me?
Okay.
All right. So y'all will be right back with Ashanti Scott here on Ask Attica.
The lights of Kentucky Performing Arts shine on more than our shows. They illuminate a pathway of discovery for all throughout our Commonwealth. A pathway of creativity, confidence, possibility, of brilliance, inspiration, curiosity, and wonder. For 40 years, Kentucky Performing Arts has led a pathway to unite the Commonwealth around the joy of discovering the arts, and will continue to shine this light far into the future.
Hey guys, before we get back to the live stream, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality Bar and Grill, located at 3402 West Broadway. You guys got to come and check us out. You can call your order in, and the phone number is 502-822-1474. Again, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality. Come check us out, guys.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Ask Attica with my special guest, my daughter, Ashanti Scott, talking all things government and politics. She didn't share it at the beginning, but just so y'all know, she has been in government, in politics, in lots of different ways from a very young age. So she's got some experience to back up this wisdom. So we're going to talk national. Before we talk national, I want to ask you, where do you get your news from? What are your news sources?
That's a good question. I get my news source mostly from TikTok and Ask Attica podcast, of course.
That's
of
right.
course. Like that's a given. I also, well, I do read the newspaper occasionally. And
she reads an actual
the actual physical paper. You have to. It's a dying art. But also the actual news articles on the news. That tends to be, I don't have cable or anything like that, so I don't tend to like watch the news. But especially TikTok for those quick, what's going on in the world? I love a good scroll.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you mentioned TikTok. how important is it to you to support Black content creators?
Yeah, it's really important. I think Black content creators are amazing and they set the trends, they set the vision, they make things hot, they make things popping. So we definitely have to support, and there can be sometimes like suppressive forces trying to keep Black creators down. So it's really important that we watch, that we listen, that we learn, and also so we can get different viewpoints to what's going on and different perspectives. So yeah, that's very important.
Oh, I'm really glad you said that about perspectives because um, she would get on my case, y'all, because I would be like, oh, I don't think I'm going to post about this because somebody else has already mentioned it. And she was like, but they didn't talk about it the way that you do. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad that you said that to me because then I started sharing my perspective about maybe some local, state, or national or international piece of news, legislation, policy, etc. And it did get a different kind of response because I'm bringing a lived experience or perspective that they may not have been hearing from someone else. So.
Yeah, it's really important. In the organization I work for Justice, they're really intentional about that as well. They fuel and put in a racial justice perspective into a lot of what we do. And they're North Carolina based, so a lot of the work in North Carolina, it lacks that racial justice aspect sometimes. Like even with the redistricting that's going on there, like they're cutting around Black districts, and so for Justice really prioritizes the voice of Black voters. So I get that experience from them as well that really emphasizes how important that change in perspective is.
Exactly. So you mentioned North Carolina. So let's get into what's happening with the Orange Terror and his administration. So at the national level, you travel a lot. You've been international. You travel a lot domestically. You've been to North Carolina. You've been to D.C. You've been to Louisiana. All these places, Chicago, Memphis. All these places that are experiencing ICE kidnappings and National Guard presence and terrorism. What have you seen? What are your reflections? What are your thoughts about all of that and how it's impacting us in this country?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see when people are being taken, your neighbors are being kidnapped, and just people at daycares, people dropping their kids off at school. It's like it's disgusting. It's not something we as a country should embrace. It's not okay. It's like a Gestapo, and it's not something that's it's just shameful. It really is truly shameful. I think anybody across any aisle should think that. So yeah, it is really horrific to see what's going on with ICE.
I agree wholeheartedly, and we need to pay attention, y'all. I mean, they're out here in Louisville and Kentucky, and we need to get involved with those entities, those organizations that are fighting back. Like, trust me, there are folks all across our Commonwealth who are actually standing up, fighting back, educating people, being rapid responders, making sure people have sanctuary and shelter, make sure people can eat, all those things. And also knowing North Carolina, man, that pushback there against ICE has been huge as well. And I know Forward Justice has been part of that too, making sure that they were engaged in that pushback. So some other things happening nationally that we should talk about. Again, we travel a lot. We've been to Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi has a water crisis. People can't bathe or drink the water because it's not clean. What are your thoughts, perspectives around that, especially knowing you've got Flint, Michigan, Martin County, Kentucky, similar issues?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think that the so-called richest country in the world has people who don't have access to clean drinking water. But we're seeing with the recent lawsuit that has come out against companies for ultra-processed foods and that they're causing cancer, we see that what happens with capitalism when you allow corporations to do whatever they want, they poison water, they poison the food, and the results are to our detriment to the people. And it's unfortunate, especially because most of the time it attacks communities of color and like Jackson, Mississippi. And so, I mean, when we were there, it was just crazy to see people having to boil their water. The water pressure, there's no water pressure coming out when they turn on their water. The water is literally like brown or yellow. It's like ridiculous. It's shameful. And then they also still want people to pay their water bill.
Right.
It's like you want me to pay for unclean water. You want me to pay for water I gotta boil.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's out of hand. It needs to be stopped. And Poor Justice is also doing work in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm always plugging my job. I love Poor Justice.
Hey, they pay the bills. That's right. So you talked about Mamdani, just very briefly. What does his win mean to you as a Black woman?
Yeah, I think Mondani's win is really important. It really is motivational. I think it's really cool that he's DSA. I think and I like that people are getting more comfortable having loud and proud DSA candidates. Like New York is putting DSA on the map. They got AOC, they got Mondani, they ain't playing. So I was really inspired by his campaign and just all the different things he did, like going to Tai Chi, going to the club. It was just like, it was great to see.
I love that. So before we close out the podcast, it is called Ask Attica. So I want to turn the mic over to you, see if you have any questions you'd like to ask me.
Do you want to name any of the organizations that are working to educate people around what's happening with ICE and Louisville, or maybe with the houseless community, anything like that, any resources to help people out?
Absolutely. So if you're concerned about ICE's presence in Louisville and if you want to make sure you show up as support, connect to Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, LSurge. So you can connect with LSurge on most social media platforms. Look them up online. Again, it's LSurge, LSURJ. Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice. If you're interested in what's happening with our houseless population, get connected to Vocal Kentucky. Again, Councilwoman Shamika Parrish Wright is their leader, their executive director, and they are doing good and important work, y'all, of making sure that they can get people connected to shelter, make sure they get people connected to housing, make sure they feed people. So please connect to Vocal Kentucky if you're concerned about our houseless community. And then if you're concerned about immigrant refugees, there are so many organizations across the city and across the state, Kentucky Refugee Ministries and others that are working to protect people, to keep them safe, but also meeting their needs, providing mutual aid, etc. Across Kentucky, if you're in Eastern Kentucky, there's Eastern Kentucky Mutual Aid. Y'all, just about every day they're posting about people who are still recovering from the climate disasters that have hit Eastern Kentucky. So make sure you connect with them. And then, of course, follow Ask Attica, follow my pages. I'm often posting what's happening across Kentucky and how people are showing up for one another. So thank you for that question. Any other questions for me?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today on Ask Attica for this mother-daughter conversation about government and politics. Y'all, I will see you next week. We have two wonderful guests that are going to be on the podcast. And make sure you share this, like it, tag people who need to watch. All right. Take care.
Hey y'all, I'm Attica Scott, former Kentucky State Representative.
They're asking me about everything, local, state, federal, all the time. How do I do this? How do I do that? Why can't I get a speed hump? What's going on with the consent decree? Hey y'all, welcome to Ask Attica. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning.